Time to abandon ship.
Here we go.
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey, this is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and another special guest episode. We've got a long returning special guest, an old friend of ours on the podcast, Iain from England. And man, Iain was in our 22nd episode and one of the first special guests that we've ever had. Yeah, it's really awesome to chat with Iain again. And hopefully any of you out there who have been tuning in for all these years, we're coming up to 5 years now. Mad respect for still sticking around here, but also very exciting that you get to hear a familiar voice again. So let's catch up with Iain. It's very casual this week, just going over things lately, what's happened in the Star Wars world the last year or two, and we'll just have a good time. Let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
All right. Welcome back, Iain. It's been a little while. I was checking the archives and saw the last time we had you on was like 2020 or something like that. So a little while ago.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot's happened since then. Yeah, it's good to be back. I couldn't believe that when you said that. I thought it was like 2022 or something. I didn't realize it had been 4 years plus. Yeah.
Oh
crazy.
My goodness. Yeah, it was May 15th, 2020, and we did a bit of a catch up on 2020 so far, just kind of like what happened that year and what was coming down the road. And then prior to that, I think the only other time was I think we did have you on actually with perhaps with Peter, I think, in the Star Wars episode. I think that is it.
I think so. I'm not quite sure, to be fair. Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but yeah.
Right. Oh, actually, yes, that was the last time. So that was 2021 in January 8th. But that was the last time. And so yeah, so it's been 2022, 3, 4. I mean, it's been over 3.5 years. And the first time you came on was, very, very well close to 5 years ago to the date. I mean, this was we first chatted in 2019, December 16th was when the episode published. So probably the week prior or something like that. So we're coming up pretty quick to our 5-year friend anniversary here.
Jesus, that is really, really weird. Yeah, I didn't know it was that long.
Pretty crazy, right? I mean, like time goes so fast, and so much stuff has happened since then. I mean, it's crazy, right? But yeah, this week, we're just catching up. We're doing a pretty casual chat here, and maybe you got some questions for me. Maybe I've got some for you, and I've got a few things here. But the thing that I keep thinking about anytime I think of like recent Star Wars news, and the thing that people always ask me about recently, is how did you like the Acolyte? And like I've been up and down with that show, and like I've even published out the Pablo Points of Poodoos that our score system here on the podcast that we just give everything. I was over 50% in the positives, not like super fantastic, but like over 50% in a way that's like not super negative. And then I had about 2 episodes, the third one I was not too sure about, but 2 episodes which were in the negative. So what in general, just kind of like what were your opinions on the Acolyte? Just because I think that's kind of the hot topic right now.
So yeah, my opinions on the Acolyte. I went to Star Wars Celebration in London in 2023, I believe, and obviously we went to the High Republic panel, me and Pete, and we were in there when they showed us the trailer that obviously no one saw until later on in the year. So when I saw that trailer, I was really excited for it. It's a show about the dark side and that. So I was hugely excited for the Acolyte. Mm-hmm. I probably fall in along the lines with you. There was parts of it I really liked, and then there was parts of it where I was a bit indifferent, and then there was parts of it where I did dislike. So yeah, it's when it was good, it was good. When it was, I found some of it a bit meh, really. So yeah, no, like I say, I'm sad as well because when I first heard of the show, I was really excited, and I have got a bit of an issue now with I finally waited all those years to see Darth Plagueis in live action, and now it looks like we're not going to see him again, which is hugely frustrating. It's a bit like the Maul solo reveal at the end, and now we got nothing apart from a few throwaway references in comics about that. So yeah, I can see why it wasn't renewed because I like I said, I don't really know about the viewing figures and what it did and that type of thing. But would I like the story to continue? Yeah, but can I see why they're not going to continue it? Also, yeah. So like I said, I'm a bit like you, just a bit in the middle with the Acolyte, to be fair.
Yeah. There was an article recently published from Variety of Amandla Stenberg's opinion on why it was canceled, and simply put, the finger pointed to sort of the rampage of toxic fans out there, of course, right? But I mean, and then it's easy to do. It's easy to do for sure, and I'm not saying that doesn't to anyone out there who thinks that is the sole reason. Like, I'm not saying that is the sole reason, but it certainly doesn't help. I mean, at the end of the day, a good show is always going to stand the test of time. A good show is going to be a good show, and for Solo, for example, like the box office was unfortunate, and I think that really was too bad because I think the movie was great. But that's basically the end result of like why we didn't see a follow up to that film. When it comes to a series, it's the same thing. If the viewer numbers don't go up, then ultimately the show gets canceled and no follow up season is made. And if people are telling other people, hey, this show was bad, then they're not going to watch it, and that's one thing. But to actually have a show with declining viewership numbers over only 8 episodes in a season, like, which is what the Acolyte had, now that's just evidence of a not great show. So I mean, like, and it pains me to say it because, like, I mean, I love Star Wars, you love Star Wars, we want to see it succeed, right? And we love the High Republic stories as well. Like, I mean, I was so excited to see just this era on live screen, and in a way that we've never seen it before. And we've always been talking about High Republic stuff as the years have gone on, since 2019. And quite frankly, a lot of fans who don't consume the comics or the books were quite confused. It's like, okay, what is this all about? What is this era? What is this big deal that people are making about it? And I hate to say it's all kind of led to the moment of the Acolyte, but it almost has a bit of a bit of a leading result there, and it's just too bad it wasn't better. So
like I said, there was parts of the show I really liked. I really enjoyed I can't remember the actor's name, but the senator who obviously had the scenes with Vanessa Rowe. I really enjoyed his stuff where he had that speech about the Jedi, like the Darth Plagueis appearance. I think the combat was good, and I did like the character Manny Jacinto played, obviously the stranger.
Yes.
But yeah, there was just parts of the show I felt like some of the sets looked a bit, I don't know what the right word is because it's crazy because I saw the budget for the show. I felt like some of the sets looked a bit cheap, and some of the sets felt a bit claustrophobic and not. I've got this thing about the volume. Like when it first happened with Mando and that, I really liked it, but I just think shows like Andor, that obviously was shot in real life practical locations. A lot of it was shot a couple of hours from a house. Yeah. I think that just looks so much better, and I think that helps. It looks like a movie. And like I said, the volume's great, but I do think it has become a bit of a crutch for shows to be made in. And I think some of it would be better if you just shot on location.
Yeah, for sure. And even if it's not the volume, I mean, like just the simple use of a sound stage, sound stages, they can make sets and I mean, some of them can feel a little small and claustrophobic, and I totally agree. It's weird because, I think when you have a cinematographer who knows what they're doing, and there were some really great shots in the Acolyte, but just some of the environments that they were in just did feel a bit smaller, and I'm not entirely sure how they could have made it better because, like, I'm not the production. What do you call it? I'm not a concept artist. I'm not, like we're not the ones coming up with any of this stuff. But I mean, just in my simple little brain, I mean, I'm just thinking like, okay, if they had maybe shot in a different location, or if they didn't rely on a soundstage, or if they didn't use the volume, if they used it at all, then then maybe it could have looked a little better. But there was some great things about the show. Like, I mean, I thought the costumes were really great. There was some really nice costumes there. The props. What did you think of the lightsabers in the show? They had a very different design to them.
Yeah, they obviously were very High Republic. Everyone who obviously hasn't read the books, High Republic's a different era in Star Wars, and yeah, the lightsabers did look different. I liked them. I liked, like I said, anything about Manny Jacinto's character, the Stranger, I thought looked really good. The Cortosis helmet and gauntlet, and that, I thought it was a really cool tie-in with the old Legends lore with Cortosis and that type of thing.
Yeah,
I thought it was a really, really cool. I think his character looked great. I think the Jedi robes and the Jedi costumes, I think they look great. Like I said, I really, there was, like you said, it's hard to pinpoint what the issue was with the show, but I just think, there was parts of it that just left me a bit bemused about what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad. I mean, I'm hoping that the general kind of Easter egg at the end there with Plagueis becomes a payoff later in perhaps a different story. I think there's still room to make more good High Republic shows. I'm afraid that Disney's gonna pull back on the budget for that kind of stuff if they'd ever do it again. But regardless, I mean, like, I think there is room still to tell a story with Plagueis there, and the fact that we did see him, I was both excited and also very sad at the same time, because naturally this was before the cancellation, which I think we all were told by the creator that this season was designed as a all-inclusive season. That I don't know if you remember that, but I think in the press tour and stuff, they were talking about this show being sort of a one-off kind of one-season show. So I wasn't expecting a second season going into it at all. And towards the end of the show, when we get that little 2-second clip, I was both really excited and also kind of unhappy, because I was so excited to see Darth Plagueis, but on the other hand, I knew that it was going to be one of those things like Maul, where he shows up and then, typical general audiences are not going to know the significance of this. And of course, I want more from that character, more so than any other character in the show so far. So it's kind of like a tease that was almost like, it was almost too much, too much for me to take. Then, moving on from there, the show gets canceled, and it's like, oh, I didn't know there was plans to maybe have a second season in the first place, but it gets canceled anyways, and now we're not going to see more of him after all anyway, right? So I'm hoping that whatever they do next, it does take that character and make some use out of it. And, it still baffles me that after all these years, listening to the Star Wars fans about, we want Darth Plagueis, that the result of that is, let's just drop him in for 2 shots. That's it. It's like, I don't really understand how they're interpreting this feedback, but if it was you and me, maybe in an office somewhere talking to Leslie or Dave or whoever, I'm pretty sure we would say we want that Darth Plagueis book adapted into a live action series. What's your thoughts on that?
I was literally just about to say that. For me, just adapt the Darth Plagueis story. Like, that book is one of, if not my absolute favorite Star Wars stories. It's up there with some of the movies for me. I think it's tremendous, and I think you could really tell that story perfectly. And like you said, I think Darth Maul appearing at the end of Solo, a lot more casual people will know who that is because of the Phantom Menace. No, sometimes I think we forget the bubble we're in. Let's be honest, he has a throwaway line in Revenge of the Sith, Darth Plagueis. 99% of the people that watch that show aren't going to know who Darth Plagueis is. They'll remember, oh, that's the guy that was mentioned in Revenge of the Sith from Palpatine, but they don't know who it is. And if you don't know who that is, it's just some creepy looking guy in a cave, and you're like, who's that? And I know what you mean. Like I said, with Maul, people go, oh, that's Darth Maul from the Phantom Menace. How is he alive? Which is obviously funny because that is quite a contentious issue in the thing. But Darth Plagueis for me, as much as I'd love to see him, like you said, I do think it was a bit cheap just to throw him in and be like, oh, I know who that is. I'm like, whoa, that's Darth Plagueis. But my mum who would watch the show would be like, well, who's that?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a shame.
I just think it is, because he's one of my favorite characters, and that book is, like I say, perfection to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is what it is, and that's I mean, it's something that I guess I hope that there is some fruit that gets that bears from this whole endeavor with the Acolyte. Like, it had its ups, it had its downs, and hopefully they learned something from it. I also think the formatting didn't do them any service whatsoever with the whole detective mystery thing of like what actually happened. I feel like less of us actually cared towards the end, where Soul keeps on like not being able to finish his story. I think by the end of the series I was like, oh, okay, well, finally, let's wrap things up at this point, because it was episode 7 that we finally got the full truth revealed. I don't know if that storytelling necessarily works for Star Wars fans. That's just a personal opinion of mine. But I found that when I watched the 3rd episode, it kind of took me out of it a little bit, because it was just all of a sudden it felt very out of place. Now we're watching the younger characters, and in the continuity of the story, this story would happen before all the other episodes. So I just didn't really understand, I guess, their need to want to keep it a surprise as to what really happened that night. The payoff for me, and when I finally watched episode 7, the payoff that they were building from episode 3 just didn't quite feel like it was enough to really make sense of putting those episodes out of order and in the way that they did, and spanning that, like stretching it across 2 episodes worth of time. Like, that was a lot of screen time that they put money into making that those flashback, if you want to call it flashback episodes. I don't know, I just felt like that money could have been used differently on perhaps the core story that was happening in the present. And my thoughts just go to Qui-Gon Jinn, keep your thoughts here and now where they belong. And I don't know, just flashback episodes didn't work too well to me. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I agree with you. Like, I felt the same watching the Book of Boba Fett. I was very invested in the stuff that happened just after Return of the Jedi, with him obviously retaking his ship, and the stuff that obviously led to him appearing in Mando season 2. I did feel like I don't like that format where a show flitters in and around flashbacks. And yeah, like with the Acolyte, I don't think the reveal, they built it up like the Jedi had done this terrible thing, like they'd gone really terrible, that they'd have to keep this secret. And I don't think what they did in the end was that bad, to be honest. Like, the mother turned into this black smoke demon type thing, and Saul reacted and obviously killed her. I don't think, it's not like she was totally innocent and he just killed her. Like, I do think, I think they built it up to be this big reveal, and when it was revealed, it was kind of like a damp squib, because I was like, it's not that bad. It's not Anakin killing Tusken Raiders.
Right. And Torben killing himself, it's a heavy thing to bring on a character. And I just thought that it was completely unnecessary. Like, it didn't look like he did anything bad at all. You know what I mean? Like, it looked like maybe he was more traumatized that his buddy left scars on his face and nearly killed him. But the fact that he had let his mind got taken over like that was, I think, the hook for him going down the spiral. And I don't know, I just, like, to me, none of it really clicked with why he would make a decision like that in the end. And I don't know, the guilt just doesn't seem to be his burden to bear. It seems like it would have been more Soul's. If anything, like, I guess Soul did let her kill him in the end. But I mean, as far as that, he just took that shot of poison like it was nothing. Like, he was like, man, screw this. Like, just
you would have thought he'd done something quite sinister and not the Jedi way.
Right. Exactly.
I did like the thing with Kel Naka potentially becoming a Mad Claw, and that's why he went off and became a hermit. I do like that idea, because obviously in Legends, that's a big thing. When Wookiees use their claws, they're not meant to do it, and they can be cast out of their communities for becoming a Mad Claw. I did like that, but the Torben thing was a bit weird for me. Like, he like he said, he willingly killed himself because I don't really know.
Right? I think that's the trouble.
It wasn't really explained.
Yeah. I think that's where a show like Andor really succeeds in so many ways. Like, whether it comes down to characters explaining themselves with amazing monologues, or just the simple details in the story that happen in a certain sequential way that the viewer is able to follow along, right? And it might take you maybe 1 or 2 viewings to fully, comprehend just everything that's happening happening in that show, but it's there and you can enjoy it and not really miss a thing. You know, it's all the pieces are there for the viewer to figure out, and in a way that it doesn't leave you puzzled or confused like a show like The Acolyte, which at its core is designed to do so, because the format is sort of like a detective mystery. It is intending the viewer to be left out of certain story elements. So when they put all the pieces together and we're supposed to make sense of it all, there's still a lot of missing links that I think they missed in the writing process that maybe just didn't quite add up in the end. And I think that's sort of the unfortunate downside of making entire episodes flashback episodes. Like what you said with the Book of Boba Fett. I didn't really mind that either. I was really invested in the Return of the Jedi flashbacks, but that's what those were. Kind of like in The Mandalorian, it was flashbacks. It was like just a couple scenes, you know, maybe a couple minutes at a time. That's fine. And, you know, maybe it's slightly odd for a Star Wars movie to do that, but at the same time, it's like I was okay with it. But with a show like this, where it's an entire episode from beginning to end, you know, like it was a little confusing to have that kind of format thrown into a Star Wars show like that. And I feel like they could have compressed all of that story into one episode and had that kind of kick off the show, if anything, and then maybe have room for one more episode of sort of the Jedi on a different mission and, you know, seeing maybe a bit more of this time period that they're in, which is super awesome, and then kind of getting into the dirtiness of it all. And, you know, and yeah, it would have been nice to know, like, oh, what's Indara doing on that planet, you know, like, why is she chilling in that bar? And I don't know, maybe the Wayseeker book, which we're going to get in a few weeks or months or whatever it is, will share with us, you know, some light on maybe some of the events that happened between the flashback episodes and the present time in the show. Like maybe because Indara is in that book, as well as Vernestra Rowe. So maybe there's going to be something there, but that's just a thought. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, like I said, yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. Well, so moving on from The Acolyte, I mean, you know, big news this week. At the end of the week, we have Star Wars Outlaws dropping. I think is that tonight or is that tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? I think
it's tonight. I think it'll be out at midnight tonight in the UK. So yeah, whatever time zone. Yeah, it was due to come out on the 30th. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, crazy.
I've got my copy ordered and I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, amazing. So yeah, I mean, this game, I guess for anyone who has bought that insane deluxe edition will have already played it or been playing it. But the Metascore on this is 77 for the PS5, 77 for PC, and 75 on the Xbox. So it's doing super, super well. You know, they're all very, very close in score, and that's good news because it means that, you know, one console is not suffering behind the others in the way of Jedi Survivor, where the PlayStation version was stable and then every other version was crashing all over the place. And, you know, it's just a result of the poor coding when it comes to the ports. But yeah, it's cool to see a Star Wars game like this get articles with headlines saying, "Is this the best Star Wars game ever made?" And I mean, in a time in which we've just come out of something like The Acolyte and you know, the heavy topic of many people not liking something, it's nice to see us going into an immediate, you know, uphill with the Outlaws game. Super great to see that Ubisoft has put a lot of resources into this game, and you know, in a time period as well, also very unique to its property, which is between episode 5 and 6, which is, we don't really have too much stuff in that time period now. I mean, they've crammed in an entire comic book series at this point now with like 49 issues for Vader and Star Wars, but other than that, I mean, there's really very few novels that take place in that span of time. So very cool opportunity to make a video game in there, and we see the return of Kira in the story, you know, as according to the trailers. So I'm wondering, like, what's your you know, what are you looking forward to most out of this game, you know, with the time period that it has to offer and the protagonist that you play as, and etc.
Well, the first thing I'm looking forward to is getting to Tatooine and riding around on my speeder in the Jundland Waste and going to Jabba's Palace and Mos Eisley Cantina. I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to seeing Akiva, the planet that was first mentioned in Star Wars Aftermath. That's where the first book took place, and that's really cool that that's been brought onto the screen. I'm hugely excited about the game. I remember when it first got announced, I was just watching the Xbox. I think it was like the Xbox. I can't remember what they do for E3 anymore. It's not E3 anymore. Whatever event they do for Xbox now, and they just casually dropped this in. I was like, oh, that's new. Because one thing I have been really critical of since obviously Disney bought Star Wars is the gaming they've handled the gaming license, like giving the exclusivity to EA, which we got a good. A couple of good Battlefront games, and obviously the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor. But I just think you've got a bit of a cheat code when you have the Star Wars license in a video game, because a lot of people will just obviously buy a game that is a Star Wars game because they'll know the license, and that's the type of thing. So I'm hugely excited that we are starting, it appears, to get into a bit more of a where we start seeing more Star Wars games made. And Outlaws, like I said, I've seen the reviews, I've seen little bits from it. It looks like it's been well received. And it looks like this could be something that obviously unites fans. Like you said, coming out of a bit of a tumultuous time with the Acolyte, where you were either in the camp of, oh, you loved it or you hated it. There was no in between. I'm hugely excited by it. I can't wait. I think I'm going to stay up a bit tonight. It's my wife's birthday tomorrow, so I can't stay up too late. But I think I'm going to stay up for a bit tonight and start cracking. I'm at the age now where I can't really justify paying for these ridiculous ultimate editions of games. I've got mortgages and bills to pay, so I can't really afford to. I think I'll just probably get the season pass once the games come out. I was away anyway from the majority of the early access, so I just can't justify paying that. But no, I really am excited by it. It looks good. I like the premise. I like the idea that you can go to these planets, and hugely excited to play it once it obviously comes out tonight, or wherever you may be listening to this, when it might already be out where you live.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I'll be picking up the regular version as well. But man, it's so nice to be out of this exclusive EA era of Star Wars games. I feel like everyone just suffered under that exclusive 8-year license or whatever it was at the time. Oh my goodness, like that was a long haul. I hope they never do that again, because I think when it comes to just what the Star Wars IP has to offer, it is incredibly vast. And we've seen Star Wars games, good Star Wars games, from so many different developers, EA included. I mean, the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games were top notch. But we had a lot of complaints along the way, and it's nice to have just the option of other developers putting their resources into this galaxy, because every studio does something very strongly, and Ubisoft is known for their amazing, very large map environment games, and that adds a lot to a Star Wars game, where you can explore and blast across the Tatooine dunes on a speeder, and these are the people that brought us Assassin's Creed and the recent Pandora game from Avatar. So there's a lot to look forward to for sure, and I'm very much looking forward to getting into this one. So kudos to Ubisoft.
I just think the Star Wars license is so versatile. You can make any type of game. Like, I would still want them to do another pod racer game that we got many years ago. I still play that to this day. You can literally do any type of game, a racing game. I know I can't remember the studio, but they are working on it. Are working on a strategy game, which I don't see enough of them being made anymore. I remember when I was a kid, I used to love Empire at War, and then even Command and Conquer, Age of Empires, and that type of thing. You can literally do a game, first-person shooters, the Republic Commando. You can do so many games within the Star Wars license. Yeah. It's not like one license. Like Assassin's Creed, you couldn't do an Assassin's Creed racing game, or you couldn't do an Assassin's Creed first-person shooter. But Star Wars, you can literally do pretty much any type of game. Like I said, I still want a pod racer game for this day and age. Like, I think it would be crazy. Like, an online pod racer game would be cool, because the first one's still great. I've got it on my Xbox. Like I said, Knights of the Old Republic is apparently being remade.
Right.
Allegedly being remade. I don't know what's going on there.
Allegedly.
They dropped a 10-second Darth Revan teaser years ago, and haven't heard anything since. And I was going to buy a PS5 just purely for that, because I think that was going to be a time release for that, and I'm glad I didn't, because we haven't seen the light of day of it. So I just think that Star Wars license for games is so multifaceted. You can do literally any type of game, and I think you would be onto a winner, as long as the game is obviously not broken upon release.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And like Lego is also evidence of that. Like, making a Star Wars kids game, something friendly for the family and stuff like that. Maybe Jedi or Outlaws is a bit too much for the 5-year-olds out there, but hey, Lego's Lego, right? Like, I mean, it's for everyone of all ages, and that's great evidence that they can make literally anything from the Star Wars IP. So yeah, I totally agree.
Lego just print money because I've just been down to London with my wife and we walked past the Lego shop in Leicester Square and there was a queue around the door. I don't think anything was releasing that day. I just think they could just print money Lego basically.
Oh yeah. Actually, that leads me to my next question. Lego is a big part of just Star Wars merch in general. So, are there any sets that came out this year which has appealed to you? Because I mean, this year celebrated a number of different things, 25th anniversary for the Phantom Menace included. So we've seen a lot of that stuff sort of come back. And, we've seen Lego sets from some of the more recent shows, including the upcoming Skeleton Crew. We've seen Ahsoka stuff, Obi-Wan Lego sets. I mean, in recent history, there's been a number of like awesome recreated battle packs that we used to get sort of in the 2009, 2010 era. And, now we're kind of seeing those pop up again and many cool things, as well as some of that Rebuild the Galaxy Lego Star Wars Disney Plus special that they're doing. Things like the Dark Falcon with Darth Jar Jar in there, like things we'd never thought we'd see. So like what sticks out to you as far as kind of recent Lego sets?
Going back to the shows, I pretty much loved all the spin-off Lego holiday specials. The Halloween one to me was hilarious with Darth Vader doing that monologue at the beginning and turning to Emperor Palpatine and being like, so what do you think? And he's like, well, it's a bit on the nose really. It's like you can say Evil Fortress on the Hill without saying it. Like that, like stuff like I've always loved the Lego. I think the Lego shows are hilarious and not just for kids. I think they're quite funny for adults. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the Rebuild the Galaxy one that's coming out. I can't remember when it's coming out, but I am looking forward to that. Yeah. In terms of Lego sets, I really like the Venator they released. However, I can't swing that, to be fair. I can't swing the cost it is for some of these sets. Like they're mind-blowingly good. But the Lego stuff is great. Like I've got a couple of Lego minifigs. I got a Bale and Skull given to me, which is pretty cool because he's an awesome character.
Oh, nice.
The Lego stuff is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. The I think let's see, the Rebuild the Galaxy is it's a 4-part mini series, and it's going to be released September 13th on Disney Plus. I think that's the same day that the Agatha Marvel series gets released on, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Disney Plus is going to be active in another week. So that's pretty cool. But 25th anniversary was this year for the Phantom Menace. So did you celebrate that anyhow? Was there any screenings in your area or even in your country in general? I mean, like at least for us over here in Canada, there was I think one theater in all of British Columbia that was screening the Phantom Menace, and that was it. And then maybe some of them on the East Coast. But what about your neck of the woods?
Yeah, there was a couple. I didn't end up going to the cinema because I just didn't have time. But I ended up watching it at home again. The Phantom Menace. I've always loved the Phantom Menace. It was the first Star Wars film I saw in the cinema because obviously I was too young for the original trilogy. I've always loved that film. I think what George Lucas did in that film was amazing to set up this totally new and different world. Totally different thing, but still have it feel like Star Wars and tell that story. So I really enjoyed the Phantom Menace. I think I got a figure. I can't remember which one it was though. I think I did get a figure for the 25th anniversary, but I can't remember what it was, to be fair. I can't see it wrongly.
One of those 6 inches or the 3 3/4?
Yeah, the 6 inches. I think I got a Mace Windu or something.
Ooh, nice.
I can't see it. Maybe I did. Like I said, I love the Phantom Menace. I always will. Like I said, it's one. I think it might be my favourite prequel film, just for the fact that obviously I went to see it in 1999 as a kid. I was 8 years old. So and I love Jar Jar Binks. I always will because I loved him when I was a kid as well.
It's really nice to see this new wave of celebration for that movie because I feel like people like you and me kind of grew up defending it to a lot of people, and I don't know. I mean, at least I did. People are pretty hard on Jar Jar at times.
I think.
Yeah.
When Ahmed Best came back in The Mandalorian, obviously played Kelleran Beck, that's one of my favourite moments in all of Star Wars, just on a personal level.
Oh yeah.
For what obviously that guy went through, and that was one of my when he lifted up and he was stood there. I can't repeat what I said because I won't be able to say it on here. I was like, that is amazing. He seems like such a nice guy, and I was so happy for him when he came back and obviously played that character. and got to show off that he was awesome. Like, he was a awesome Jedi in the prequel era.
Oh yeah, hands down. And for those of you who want to get a Lego minifigure for him, they released a Grogu's Escape set recently, and he's included with Grogu on a speeder bike. He's got his 2 lightsabers. It comes with 2 clone troopers or so, and yeah, it's pretty cool. That I think was a highlight moment for sure. I think if I were to make a sizzle reel of the last 5 years of Star Wars, just like all the best moments, I think that would definitely be towards the top, as far as like justice for Kelleran Beck, or I mean, justice for Ahmed, I guess, for being included with Star Wars people. And I mean, the guy's a pioneer in motion capture technology. He was the first actor to wear the goofy suit for the whole movie. And I mean, really it's so nice to have him play another character as well that people can just recognize him as, like his real face, and get a sense of his acting on a different level, because everyone kind of typecasts him in their head as Jar Jar Binks, but I mean, the guy's still an actor. He can act, right? So it's nice to see him in another role and still in Star Wars. But we had another show come out, which I think a lot of us were looking forward to, and this was last year, capped off 2023, but I never got a chance to ask you about it. How did you enjoy Ahsoka?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Like, I love Rosario as Ahsoka. I think it's a great choice for her to play that character at that point in her life. I love that show. Like, there's parts of that show that are in my favourite moments of Star Wars. For some reason, I don't know why, whenever Episode 5 Shadow Warrior is unbelievable. Like, that is pure just absolute. But I thought the whole show was amazing. I thought they told a really good story. And like I said, and going back to the Acolyte, that show must have done well because they've already greenlit season 2. Yeah. And that is coming. And yeah, I think that show is amazing. Like, that's the closest I've ever felt that they got back to that like George Lucas feel of Star Wars in that show. Obviously, Dave is very involved. He runs Lucasfilm, obviously the story side of it now. So yeah, and that show for me was great. Thrawn being there, obviously Anakin bringing back Hayden to finally see him interact with Ahsoka, which was awesome. We got to see stuff in that show that was crazy. Yeah, I loved Ahsoka. I thought it was really, really good. And we got to see C-3PO, which I thought was cool as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was very special to see all these characters who I guess we have been building up to a moment like that. I think when Rebels first came out, I wasn't too happy with Rebels initially because of Clone Wars having been canceled in almost, it seemed like, in favor of Rebels. And so I was quite bitter towards that show for a while, and quite frankly, the age targeting was also a lot. It's younger than Clone Wars being on Disney XD, whereas Clone Wars was on Cartoon Network and
Cartoon Network.
Yeah. So it's like it was like teenagers downgrading to about 10 to 12-year-olds, and I just thought, like, oh man, like when that happened, I was already a bit older and wasn't too happy with it. But as I persistently watched Rebels anyways, I grew an appreciation for it towards the end, for sure. It's still never it's still never gonna top Clone Wars for me, but it was it grew on me for sure at some point, and now I can look back and enjoy it. And recently, my buddy over here and I, we actually did a whole after show on this podcast called Rebels Talk. We nailed the whole show out in 20 episodes. So we reviewed like 4 at a time or something like that, and usually tried to do it by story arc, but Rebels is kind of tricky because a lot of them are just kind of one-shot episodes. But yeah, it's nice to see a show like that kind of have its payoff in the reverse order, because with Clone Wars, that's a show derived of characters that existed in live action before and then got piped into an animation story to tell the in-between, and new characters came out of that, and we've seen those kind of flourish in live action. But Rebels was really a creation for animation, and to see that kind of come to life on the live action screen was quite unique, something special, and for it to actually be a very good show as well was like just a real treat. And to see characters like Balin and Shin Hati and I mean, like brilliant villains coming out of a show like that. We saw the Dathomir and witches, and perhaps some origin story relating back to them, which we'll explore later, and the return of Thrawn, played by the one and only guy who can play Thrawn. was just like unbelievable, right? And I think a lot of people, the highlight is that we saw Hayden come back as Anakin Skywalker, and for him to do that, and for the de-aging to be looking actually like really good this time, and compared to the Kenobi series, like they nailed it as far as like the visuals, and the storytelling was great. It took me a while to fully comprehend what was going on in that Shadow Warrior episode. I think now I kind of like it a lot more than I did when I first saw it, because I was just more confused than anything. But I still really loved seeing him back. That was like the highlight of the show for me. And now I think that's one of the best episodes to come out of like any of these Star Wars shows at all. But it's the most like typical George Lucas fantasy Star Wars that you can possibly get, with that level of storytelling right there. But also very Dave Filoni. I mean, Dave Filoni's the guy who came up with that world between worlds place. And so, yeah, very cool to see all these pieces kind of come together. And I just hope that it keeps going in that direction. How would you rank all of the Star Wars shows now that we've got a decent list? Like I feel like we can rank them. If you were to like average them out based on the seasons that they have available, like how would you put them?
So me personally, that's a good question. I will always I love Andor, but I will always enjoy the more Jedi fantasy aspects of Star Wars. So I would probably go number 1 is Mando, because I just love the Mandalorian. I even like season 3, even though the one thing that annoyed me with Mandalorian, it became kind of trendy to knock the show. I feel like obviously season 3 wasn't perfect, but I think season 1 and 2, season 1's still my favourite season of The Mandalorian. I think season 1 was unbelievable. So yeah, number 1 I'd go Mando, number 2 would be Ahsoka, and then number 3 would be Andor, and then I'm just trying to remember all the shows. I'm trying to think.
Kenobi, Book of Boba,
what shows are left?
Acolyte. Let me think. I think is that the rest of them? Kenobi, Book of Boba, and Acolyte, I think.
So I would probably go Book of Boba 4, Kenobi 5, and then the Acolyte 6th. Yeah, that's probably what I'd go. But yeah, no, it's very. I just think Mando, the first season and the second season, that obviously the Luke Skywalker thing at the end of season 2 is unbelievable. And yeah, I really enjoy the Mandalorian. Ahsoka was great as well, and like I said, I really enjoyed Andor as well. It was something different, and yeah, that's how I'd ranked them. So yeah, I would go Mando, Ahsoka, Andor, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, Acolyte. That's it.
Yeah. It's that feels pretty good.
How would you go?
I think between Andor and Ahsoka, I'm always tied for first on those ones. I mean, they're so different, but also highlighting the best of Star Wars, because Ahsoka really is that fantasy, that space fantasy genre of Star Wars, and Andor is that sort of political science fiction side of Star Wars. So it's tough to choose at times, but yeah, I would say I would probably have to say, if I was a critic, I would probably say Andor is probably my number 1, is just as far as production quality and other areas.
Yeah.
Despite my excitement of what was behind the story in Ahsoka, I did appreciate that show way more than I thought I would when they initially announced it. So I think that kind of deserves my number 1, and then Ahsoka is a very, very close behind in number 2. For my number 3, I would probably slot in Mandalorian there. It definitely deserves a high spot up on the charts. Then I would probably have to do. I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I think maybe Book of Boba next, and then Kenobi, and then Acolyte at the end. Because I think between Kenobi and Book of Boba, I feel like generally there were maybe some areas which both the shows could have been improved. But I think the Luke Skywalker thing, definitely had me a bit more entranced through the length of his time in the show than the duel with Obi-Wan and Vader, which it felt like it was quite a bit of build up to that moment, and I'm still struggling with whether or not it fits in the story, despite the dialogue that is shared in the later films. I still think was it really necessary to have a moment like that? And as cool as it was, it just felt like the whole show was kind of built around that duel, and I don't know if that's just a way to make a show. But what's your feelings on that? That's a very controversial thing. What do you think about that whole let's slot in one extra moment with Vader and Kenobi in this time period?
I think they over-egged it by saying it's the rematch of the century. They made it sound like it would be on par with the Mustafar duel, which they're never going to do.
Right.
Yeah, I think I can see why they did it, and there is enough wiggle room in the dialogue in A New Hope to maybe say, but I think you could have done it. I think you could have done a Kenobi show that didn't center around that. But there was parts of the Kenobi show I loved. The Vader stuff I love, like when he first walks down that street on the planet, that is amazing, where he's just being Darth Vader, but this is a Darth Vader we hadn't seen. This is Darth Vader who's full of rage and is very, very much annoyed. I love Ian McDiarmid coming back to play the Emperor. I love Liam Neeson, seeing him back as well. But yeah, like there's parts of Kenobi I can really appreciate, but then like you said, there's parts where I think could the story be told where you don't have to have that confrontation? Yeah, sure. And I do think the duel was great, but I didn't like that it was just on some generic moon that it was very dark, and it was very Game of Thrones season 7 Battle of Winterfell type thing where you like so yeah, no, I like Kenobi, and it does have his place, but yeah, like I said, I love seeing Ewan back, and I love the Vader stuff and that, and yeah, I think Vader came across very good in that show. That's the one thing I do say about Disney. They've used Vader very, very well. They haven't obviously compromised his legacy as a character.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think they've done a really good job of, advancing I think it's called revoice or something. It was the technology that they used to basically make Mark Hamill sound youthful, and Vader is fully like back in his prime James Earl Jones days. Whereas when you watch Rogue One, you can tell that he is voiced by James Earl Jones, but he's quite a bit older now, so the voice just isn't as strong, and it feels a bit weaker. And it was so great to have him back in the film, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't really quite match up with the other performances in the other films. And whereas I think Episode 3 was really the last time that we had some crisp, kind of more youthful sounding Vader. And then Rogue One, it sounded quite soft. So it was nice to see that more aggressive, kind of strong voice come back to the character, and that was all due to the technology that was used on the to make that happen. So that was very cool to see that. And I mean, I love seeing. It was pretty ambitious to de-age Hayden as much as his 18-year-old self in Episode 2, but seeing those flashbacks as well was pretty neat. Something very different that show had to offer. And I feel like Attack of the Clones is one of those movies and one of those appearances that it's like a small window of time, which is never the definitive version that we all think of when we think of the characters. We always think of the Revenge of the Sith depictions of those characters, Obi-Wan and Anakin and so on and so forth. And it's just really surreal to see them in their old costumes again, and back as master and apprentice, and training at the Jedi Temple. Like that was really, really cool. Something very unexpected that I never thought they would do. So I really appreciated that which came out of the show as well. But yeah, we're kind of running out of time, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to ask me a few questions, if any. Is there any on the top of your head that kind of stand out?
Yeah. Is there anything, obviously, since we last spoke, have you got any merchandise or anything that you're really proud of that you like to display?
Oh yeah. Let me think here. I mean, a number of things. I'm kind of a sucker for the Black Series helmets from Hasbro. So, I've acquired a little too many too quickly, I think, like in the last few years. I now have a collection of 6, I think, I want to say. So I have...
I've only got two.
Oh yeah, just wait, my friend. You'll get more. It'll happen. But yeah, I have the Din Djarin Mandalorian helmet. I have Darth Vader, the original one, not the reproduced Rogue One version, the Obi-Wan Kenobi version. Although I like that one a lot more because they did a lot more of an accurate job with the sheen on the helmet and the lenses being red and stuff like that. So I have the original one that they made. But I do have Trapper Wolf's X-Wing helmet. The one and only Dave Filoni, has his X-Wing helmet.
Oh, yeah.
The classic Stormtrooper. That was my first, which got me down the rabbit hole many years ago. And I've got Captain Rex's Ahsoka helmet from the live action series, and a Phase 2 Clone Trooper. So I am sweating it out for them to make a Phase 1 Clone Trooper helmet, because I am itching to get one of those if they ever make it, which I'm sure they will at some point, but they'd be fools not to. But yeah, it's I just kind of buy the ones that I really like, so I like displaying those in these IKEA I think they're called Detolfs, like the glass display cabinets that IKEA made. It's like the ones that everyone uses. So I use those. And I've also acquired all of the steel books so far from the Star Wars series, whether it be the Disney Plus shows or the films. Back when they had their original Steelbook launch, I think it was in 2015 or 2016 or something. It was before the 4K releases. They re-released all of these, all the original 6 George Lucas films on Steelbook before The Force Awakens launched, I think. And I got the individual ones with the character face on the back of them and the poster and stuff on the inside.
Yeah, I remember those,
Yeah. So I had those 6. So as the movies have kind of come out from Disney, Rogue One, Solo, so on and so forth, Force Awakens, all that stuff, I got the steel books for those. So I'd acquired like enough steel books that when the Disney Plus shows got dropped on Steelbook recently for Mandalorian season 1 and 2, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and was Book of Boba Fett in the mix? I forget, but
it's Andor. No, it was Andor.
Andor, yes, thank you. Yeah, so between those 4 shows, I got all those on Steelbook. So now I've got this really nice like Star Wars Steelbook collection, which kind of sits on the shelf, and I've got it, bookended with these gentle giant Star Wars bookends. So that's sort of a nice centerpiece that's like right behind my desk. If I'm on a video chat or something, it's like, right in center kind of thing. So So that's some of the more recent good stuff, and a gift from a friend over here. He's got a lightsaber company, ALKY Sabers. He recently he gave me a Anakin Episode 2 replica hilt, so I'm pretty stoked about that. It's like a pixel blade lightsaber, and it's insanely nice, and he's a super nice guy. ALKY has been on the podcast a number of times, and I love doing little projects for them, like little Photoshop things like that. And he's such a generous guy, and him and Alex, they go to all of the conventions across Canada doing their lightsaber market, and I highly recommend anyone go and check out, go and say hi at their booth. If you ever come here for anything, make sure you hit me up, and we'll I'll introduce you. They got some good stuff. So yeah. What about you? What new collectibles? What are you rocking on the shelf?
I did. Obviously, I went to Star Wars Celebration in 2023. That was awesome. That was really cool. I got a few things there. I got a couple of the publishing. I really love Heirs to the Empire, the book series, and I got the Luke Skywalker Heirs to the Empire publishing Black Series figure for that. I also. What else have I got? I'm just looking around now. Just looking around my office just to see what else I've got. I've still got the Obi-Wan Kenobi Black Series, the one with the hologram table that was an exclusive for like San Diego Comic-Con. Nice. I've still got that on my shelf, so I'm really happy with that. So just a couple of things like that. I'm really and they've just done a re-release of the Starkiller Black Series figure and the Starkiller vintage figure, which I've got hanging up on my wall as well because I love that character.
Oh yeah. Oh, so it's so good to see some of this old
stuff. That's a Black Series helmet I want them to make.
Yeah.
I need them to make a Starkiller Black Series helmet because it's in Andor. The helmet is in Andor. It's on the shelf in Andor.
Yeah, they do
Starkiller
it,
Black, the Starkiller helmet from the game.
They have a reason.
Yeah, they need to make that because I will buy it.
Oh yeah. Hands down. Yeah, and they recently made the Stranger mask from the Acolyte, right? Like the gold's Cortosis helmet. So I don't know how that looks in person. The photos look pretty good, but it could be one of those things that doesn't look as good in person. But man, that Starkiller helmet, Darth Starkiller. Oh yeah, I'd buy that 100%. Yeah, they got to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right, I got one more question for you before we wrap things up. You're a big Star Wars literature reader, of the books and some of the comics and such. So what in the last year or two have been really standout stories for you to recommend for people?
I really enjoyed, I'm just trying to see which book it was. I really enjoyed the High Republic stuff, but obviously that'll be too much to get into now. I've started reading a lot more Legends than that. I've started reading, I've read a few more Legends books that I hadn't read before, which was really cool. I am looking forward to a couple of things that are coming up. I'm looking forward to the new Mace Windu story that's coming out in October. I think it's Glass Abyss, which I'm really looking forward to. That sounds really cool. And I'm also looking forward to the new publishing Battle of Jakku comics that are coming out soon. I think the first one comes out in October. I think.
Yeah, pretty soon.
So I'm really hugely excited. I'm really hugely excited they're starting to go past Return of the Jedi with the comics and start to go into that time frame.
Yeah, it's nice to revisit that era that, like, we really only had those Aftermath books in that time period, and maybe the Alphabet Squadron, which I never read those, but yeah, like, there's so much storytelling.
You should read them.
I definitely will. I definitely will at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much storytelling that could happen in that span of time, which it's still the rebellion versus the Empire and the final struggle. And, you know, it's a great opportunity to revisit with a comic book, because I think the only one that we have so far in that time period is Shattered Empire, and that was like a mini series back in the day when the Aftermath. This is like before Force Awakens came out. They did that comic book, but
yeah, it was part of the journey to the Force Awakens stuff.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things that kicked us off with your first time on this podcast. You were talking about the Force Collector book, which you had picked up, which was available over there,
yes,
and not quite available here just yet. So you found an early copy, and yeah, we had a good discussion about that book. So that was really cool.
It was a cool story though.
Yeah,
it was a cool story, that book.
Yeah, very. But yeah, if you're in a lull and trying to find something good to read next, I'll throw you a legend story. If you're getting back into some old legend stuff, I grew up reading the Last of the Jedi and the Jedi Quest series, and some of the Jedi Apprentice books, although those were published slightly before I was kind of at that age of reading. But yeah, Jedi Quest and Last of the Jedi, fantastic series. Jedi Quest is about a young Obi-Wan and Anakin between episodes 1 and 2, and the Jedi Apprentice series was about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan before episode 1, and then the Last of the Jedi series is about Obi-Wan, and eventually they bring in a character who is a rival to Anakin at the Jedi Temple. His name's Ferris Olin, and
is that where he's from? Because I've heard of that character before. Yeah.
He's like exclusive to that series of books, and I absolutely loved that whole series of books. It's the three series of books: Jedi Apprentice, Jedi Quest, and then Last of the Jedi. And then there's 2 books that kind of tie into the 3 series. One of them is called Secrets of the Jedi, and the other one is called Legacy of the Jedi. Now, you'll really only need to read the 10 Jedi Quest books and the 10 Last of the Jedi books to read Legacy, Secrets of the Jedi, to really kind of make it, sort of, I don't know, this like epiphany or this very cool kind of tie into all those series. But yeah, I highly recommend those ones. And if you're a big fan of sort of the era of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, but not necessarily thrilled with how the result of that worked out, it's interesting to kind of read the Last of the Jedi series and think of it as inspiration for the show, and where the show could have taken the story instead if they had brought in a character like Ferris Olin. And oh my goodness, if you read the Jedi Quest series before Last of the Jedi, it is even more of a payoff, because Ferris is in that series as well, in the Jedi Quest series, is one of the main characters. But yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone who's like willing to crack open a junior novel. They're very quick to get through, right? Because they're thin paperback novels with maybe 15, 18, 20 chapters or something. But yeah, I grew up reading those, and they're quite special. So maybe check those out if you ever get a chance. They're good stuff.
I will do. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Ian. I think we've hit our time for today, but we will definitely get you on again, and I'll have you back. We can have a good chat about something in the near future. We got Skeleton Crew coming out around the corner in I don't know, pretty soon, I guess. Like a couple months maybe away. Is it next year or
December? I believe it's out. Yeah, December, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So December into January is when that show is coming out on Disney Plus. So looking forward to that. And like you said, the Lego Star Wars special, that's going to be good as well. So there's lots coming out. I hope you enjoy your weekend playing Star Wars Outlaws, and maybe we can have a chat with that. Maybe I'll get you back on in a few weeks or so when we've had a chance to kind of play it thoroughly, and we can have a good review on that or something if you're up for it. But yeah, thank you so much for coming back on, and yeah, thank you so much for coming back on and joining me here, and it's been great to catch up.
Cheers, mate. Absolute pleasure.
All right, we'll catch you later. All right. A big thank you to our audience, to our listeners out there. You can find Iain on Twitter with the handle Star Wars Iain, I think it is, and I'll put it in the description below. As well as you can find us, the handle at SWScape Podcast. Our email is swscapepodcast@gmail.com. And you can tune in to this podcast on any platform in the galaxy, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, I don't know, whatever you use, YouTube. We're even on YouTube, and you can find us with that handle as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, send the show to a friend. We love it when people leave a nice comment. That helps us out a lot. It helps us keep motivated. And you can add in your comments as to what you'd like to see from the podcast as far as topics and character highlight episodes like our What Happened series. As you know, it's been slowing down a little recently on the podcast. Not too many episodes lately, so just a quick update there. Things will be picking up again in September, and we hope all of you had a chance to go back and listen to some of the older episodes that we have on the roster, which is very rapidly approaching 350, I think it is now. Pretty crazy. So definitely check the description down below for those links and those socials, all that stuff. We'll see you in the next episode, and may the Force be with you.